Hey y'all, this is Tammy, and I wanted to talk to y'all about World AIDS Day. It's coming up on December the 1st, which is Monday, and I've been seeing a lot of posts about it. They flooded my feed on YouTube with different things, people talking about, how they got diagnosed and um, how they're doing and all this stuff. And so I thought I would come on here just for a minute and talk a little bit about my interaction. And so, about 2000, my ex-husband was feeling bad. He's feeling poorly. He'd been feeling poorly for weeks. I tried to get him to go in the emergency room or urgent care or somebody because I knew that he had pneumonia. But he was so afraid to go because the way that he had lived his life was conducive to him getting that disease. So anyway, I took him to the hospital, and this was 2000. I remember because it's been 25 years since that diagnosis showed up in, at that time, our life. And so I took him to the ER, and I wrote a book about it, y'all. Walking Away, Winning the War Against Shame, Abuse, AIDS, and Abandonment. And it is on Amazon. It is also on Booksby. I'm actually going to drop the link in the comments. But yeah, so that was my time with AIDS. Not only that, I'm a nurse, and I've worked, with that population for decades. I did. And so I was able to, navigate a lot, probably different than a lot of people because I knew a lot about it. Because I actually worked with one of the leading AIDS specialists in South Carolina, in the world. Really, he was in the world. He's an amazing. He was an amazing provider. His name was Dr. Burnside. I don't know if he's still with us anymore. The last time I checked, a couple of years ago, I was looking for him, and he is. But he's an amazing, amazing, amazing doctor, and he was one of the forerunners in working with patients with AIDS. So I had worked with him in the hospital, so I had a little bit of experience in this area. So when I started seeing different symptoms, and with my ex, it was the fatigue and then the pneumonia, which came, and I knew it. I told him that it's pneumonia. So by the time he went in and everything, his T cells were less than 200. And matter of fact, they were 9. I remember this so clearly. I don't know why I remember that 20 years later, but I remember it was 9 because I remember that the doctor called me at work. I was at work at the hospital, and the doctor called me. The nurse called me to tell me, what they have found, what the labs look like and all that. And then asked me if I had a preference for a specialist because, you have to go to a specialist for everything these days, especially 20 years ago. And so, my mind raced to all kinds of things because, we had kids. I didn't want to ruin their childhood, and I really didn't think that was a burden that they should carry. And, and so I held on to it. I didn't think it was a burden that they should carry. I did not. I didn't. So I held on to it. Like I said, we navigated a lot of things. I think at that time they were like 10 and 12 or something like that, 11 and 13 or something like that. So they were at the age where they were starting to get curious. And so I told them that daddy was sick and, daddy had pneumonia. And so they were satisfied with that. And y'all, my kids were smart too. So, they would go and look up drugs and stuff. You know what I mean? And yeah, I didn't even know, but yeah. So anyway, I should know because I taught them to not take anything at face value. But the thing of it is, for me, is I was there to support him. I tested negative, and I continue to test negative. I had for 10 years prior, because the backstory is, when I had my son, I was so sick, and my hemoglobin dropped so low that I had to have 4 units of blood. So ever since that time, and that was in 1991, I started testing for AIDS every single year. And every time I went to the doctor, I got that test, so I knew that I was good. And even after they found it in him, he actually said to me, he said, "Babe, you're good." He said, "God wouldn't do that to you." That's what he said. Not what I said, not my words, his words. I just wasn't concerned about it, because at that time I was concerned about him. I saw a lot. I took care of people until they died, in a lot of cases. Had a few patients like that, and a couple that were near and close to my heart, just beautiful, sweet people. And one young lady in particular that I'm actually finishing writing her story, she did contract AIDS from her husband. And so I supported her until she left here. I think I didn't have her when she died, and I think that was something that I asked God not to, because I had taken care of her, and I had gotten so close, and I met her kids and even her husband, because she was such an example for me, because she forgave him. And she was the one that was sick, and she actually died. He was not sick. But she forgave him because he cheated on her and gave her that package. And so he had it as well. But he was still alive at the time that she passed away, because I was there at that time. But yeah, so it's a journey. I can only imagine if I was the one that had tested positive for it and that had contracted it. But my ex-husband did, and I was able to support him in a lot of ways. And for the record, he actually divorced me. So it wasn't me divorcing him because he was sick. I was with him for the first, I think it was 6 or 7 years of his diagnosis. So it wasn't all of that. However, I would be wrong if I didn't say I was grateful. But yeah, so that is my story about AIDS and how it affected my life, and I pray for all the people that have to deal with this, that have contracted it through, sex or drugs or however way. Doesn't matter. The point is, you have something that you have to deal with. And so I am so committed to helping people with care, with compassion, with understanding, because I have been through a lot of things, in that arena. And, and I did it young, I think I might have been barely just over 30 when that thing went down like that. Yeah, because it's been 25 years. So yeah, I was just barely over 30 when this thing went down for us. But I wanted to just share my story with that. And I can't tell you, and I can't say, why I was protected from that. I can only tell you that it was nothing but God, because he was my husband. I was having sex with him. And so, but I can't tell you, what was the reason why, I didn't, contract that and other people did. I don't know. All I know is I was there to help him and support him, to get him, on his protocol of medicine and things to do, and help him to make sure he was taking it and all this stuff, and try to encourage him. And these are things that I did. So, but this was my journey into the world of AIDS.